Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and an Interview. This is Jacqueline Pena, and I'm so excited today to be back with my special guest. I want to say friend because we've been through a journey for a few years. Jacquie
Yes.
Bird from Jacquie Bird Spiritual Wellness. Jacquie, thank you for coming for a follow-up session. It's been about 2 years, right?
Yes, at least. Thank you so much for having me and thinking of me. Thank
No,
you.
we always have great conversations, but in case our listeners for this episode have not heard your previous episode, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, that's a loaded question.
And
I,
she doesn't drink coffee, folks. I already had a
that,
cortado, but she doesn't drink coffee.
I'm just wired this way. Um, it's interesting. Who am I? I am a ball of light emanated on the earth plane right now. That's the heavy, deep, high thing of who I am. Um, I'm somebody that's got a lot of energy, a lot of ideas, very empathetic, and want to live the best life that I can, meaning as peaceful, as joyful, and as purposeful as possible. And in doing that, hope to touch others. That's who I am. Yeah.
Very powerful. And it's funny because you do that through multiple ways. We've talked about this before. We're both, depending on the language you prefer, we're both multi-passionate creatives or
Yes.
multi-hyphenates, or in HR, we say multi-talented, which is a little dangerous sometimes, but it also is a wonderful thing because it's that creative power. We're passionate about
Mhm.
everything we do, but we love a lot of things and we're very creative. So that's a little bit about who you are. I know you didn't say all of that, but
But that's true. I'll take it.
yeah, and you've been working, so you've done a lot of work around spiritual wellness and guided
Yes.
meditation. And you've been working on quite a project that brings this all together in a very tangible way for folks. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. And it's this fabulous book, very
Yes.
colorful, nice workbook style publication. Tell us about what you've been working on. What are you bringing to us?
Well, I have a book called 28 Daily Thoughts and Mantras for Mindfulness, Keys for Stress Relief and Personal Growth. And this book, or my baby, really encapsulates a lot of my philosophy, a lot of my journey, a lot of ways that I have found to calm myself, calm my being, to not get myself into so many entanglements in terms of problems. Things that I have found that work. And I think that the person I am today is a much calmer, more clear person than I was 10 years ago. And I think that in creating this book, I was able to bring all of that home. And it's colorful on purpose because, if you have no time to go through a whole book, first of all, the book is broken into days. So if you have no time to read the whole entry for that particular day, you can just look at the photograph and the mantra that I've written with the photo. And if you keep that in your mind all day, and when you're at work and your coworkers getting on your nerves and your boss is getting on your nerves, you say that mantra and you remember that photograph and you take those deep breaths. And in that moment, you can bring yourself back to center without a whole lot of time. And you can maybe not bite somebody else's head off or snap at them because you have more patience. You've like, what I like to say is if you don't fill the well, you have nothing to give.
Mm.
So, we are so busy. We are just running around doing this, that, and the other. And a lot of times we don't fill our well, our wellness well, our self-care well, or we'll do it in such a hurry. Like, okay, you go get your nails done and your toes done, and you're like you have an appointment. So you haven't fully relaxed into that environment or into that care because you may be on the phone or you're thinking about 50,000 things you have to do. So you haven't been present. So this book helps you become more present, how to maybe, it's for people that want to meditate and maybe have a hard time getting into it, or for people that want to deepen their practice. But the book makes it meditation more accessible because a lot of folks think, oh, I have to sit still for an
Mhm.
hour,
That's me.
with the finger, I have to do that for an hour at 4 in the morning because my day starts at 5. And to really be able to take care of yourself, you need to be able to do it throughout the day. Because it's like people will say, I meditate for an hour, but then they'll be the first one to curse somebody out, if they bang into them or at a traffic stop or whatever. So that hour you spent meditating was just that. It was an hour hours ago.
Wow.
So the book reminds us you have to check in often, not just at when you sit down for meditation, or if you don't sit down for meditation, you have to take those moments to breathe. A lot of people are driving their children all
Hmm.
over the place to soccer practice, to dance practice, to football practice. What do you do with the time where you're waiting? You could take that moment right there, remember what I said in the book, or take the book out and do something right there to reset and to reground yourself. It's important to do that throughout the day. And then when things go awry and there's an emergency, you can respond in a more grounded way because you've been practicing how to be more grounded and centered.
Wow. I mean, a couple of things. And for our listeners, you're going to hear these drops of wisdom throughout, or drops of advice throughout the conversations. I can already tell it's going to happen. And I just want to repeat, if you don't fill the well, you have nothing left to give. You have nothing to
Nothing,
give.
nothing to give.
So one, just be on the lookout, or have your ears out for those drops of advice or drops of wisdom. And the other thing is, I do a lot of work around culture in the workplace now as well, and just trying to
Mm,
help people enhance culture in the workplace, or be, whether they're the employee or and the work you're talking about can be so powerful, not just in the workplace, but if you're
mm.
having challenges with home,
Yes,
or the workplace again, or just some other atmosphere, taking that time to have consistent meditation, to take that time for yourself, not just 8 hours ago, not just as a
right,
practice to check off the box you did it, but to
right.
really be intentional about it. It can help you with balancing whatever that challenging culture is, regardless of
Yes,
where it is that you're experiencing it.
yes. And one of the things I talk about in the book is how you role in the world, not what happens to you, but how you react. You know, did you need to react? Did you really need to react? What did it serve? What purpose did it serve? Did it change the situation? This book is really to help guide people become more mindful. It's easy to blame somebody for everything that goes on, but this book shines the light on you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it shines, because, and I'll give you an example just in terms of something from my life. I was having a lot of conflicts for many, many, many years with my landlord. It was bad. And I would get, like, if he sent me a text or I heard his voice, I would immediately be triggered. I would immediately be angry, stressed, worried. It was a serious trigger. And one day I said, Self, yes, what can we do here to change this situation? And the thing is, you can't change the other person. You have to change how you perceive and how you react, how you behave. And that's what the book stresses. So I started to treat him differently. Even though he was still just as nasty as ever, I started treating him with more kindness. And eventually it did shift our relationship. Um, so that's how much power you have. And the book also serves to put the power back where it needs to be in your hands. Um, because as soon as you start thinking, oh, it's the other person, you lose sight of this of what it really is. It's how you're perceiving it, how you're responding to it, how you are triggered by it, and you have to be able to look at yourself. If you've done all you can do, is he still a nasty person? Yes. I didn't change him, but what I did change was our dynamics because I stopped reacting in a certain way to his certain way. And that's the book addresses that in terms of how do you change the narrative, your narrative.
That's tough. And it's your circle of influence or power, right? We're
Yeah,
in situations and we keep trying to think of how can we change the situation, but we're thinking about changing the people or changing a circumstance.
absolutely.
And we don't always have that power. What do we really have power over? And we
Right.
do have a power over how we react. It's just
Yes.
really tough to change that instinct to react a certain way
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you are triggered or when you get a kind of message. And then for me, it's a lot of forgiveness also, because then I look back at how I reacted.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that what the other person did was correct. I'm just more
Right.
ashamed of how I reacted
Right.
when I was triggered. And then
Yes.
I have a hard time then with that relationship, whether a friendship or it's
Mm.
a coworker, what it is, because I'm reliving that. Grief.
Aha.
And so that's an additional set of work, not just the meditation to focus
Yeah.
how to control how I react and change the
Right.
dynamics, but
Right.
how do you work on that part then?
I talk about that in the book.
Oh,
I talk about that in the book.
and I didn't know that, listeners. I did not know that one.
I talk about that in the book because basically the gist is know thyself.
Mm,
Know thyself. Know that, okay, certain things you guilt over. Because what you're talking about also is guilt, how you behaved. The thing is, and forgiveness, that's a huge part of it. And I have a section in my book called Forgiveness Friday. It's a whole thing about forgiveness because that is how we hold ourselves hostage. And then by not forgiving either another person, but largely ourselves, because we tend to be mad at ourselves because we were hurt, because we were angry, because we didn't say all the things we thought we should have said. So it's like we're always doing this. And I talk a lot in my blog about self-criticism, self-torture, how much we actually really torment ourselves on a regular. And the book talks about, first of all, recognizing that, and then ways to address it, and understanding that you have to have patience because if you're 28 years old, you've been behaving for at least 22 of those years in a certain way. And it's going to take time to reverse that. And it doesn't mean that you don't get angry. It doesn't mean that you don't get hurt. It doesn't mean that you don't get scared. But what it does mean is that you don't stay there. You don't stay in those states
mhm.
and keep dogging yourself out as a result of having felt that way. It's getting to a place of, okay, well, yeah, I could have made a different choice, but I didn't. And then you move on. You just, okay, I blew it.
Oh,
Or,
wow.
yeah, yeah. And then it's like, okay, five, as we dancers say, 5, 6, 7, 8, you start. the combination. That's what or 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to say. Pick a buzzword, meaning to move forward, to get going. And it's not just to move forward, but to be present. It's really about being present. Are you in that moment doing those things you're upset about? No, that moment passed already. So it's being able to say, this is where I am right now. This is what's happening right now, as opposed to that's what happened last week or yesterday or even 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. And being able to move on. I think that's the hardest part for me, or has been for a long time. And
Yeah,
rehashing that. And it doesn't help when you rehash it. So I'm
it
so
doesn't.
glad that's in your book. I think
Yes.
I need it.
Yeah, because it's particularly women, we can guilt the mess out of ourselves. It's just, you're never enough. I never did that enough. I didn't spend enough time with my kid. I didn't spend enough time with my husband. I didn't spend enough time with my partner. It's always, we tend to run in a deficit. We're always deficit full. And this book talks about how to get yourself in the thriving.
Mm,
Thriving is not just whether you're making a lot of money, but thriving is really, are you feeling energized in your life? Are you feeling fulfilled in your life? Are you feeling joyful in your life? Are you feeling peaceful in your life? To me, that's thriving. And
hmm.
it doesn't matter how many zeros you have, it matters on your relationship with yourself more than anything.
Yeah. A relationship with yourself. Something we
Yeah.
don't think about. We think about goals, moving forward, guilt, getting over the guilt, the circle of
Yeah.
influence, and make sure that we can, focus on things that we have power over.
Yeah.
How many of us really think enough about relationships with ourselves? And what does that even mean or look like?
Well, I think um that's one of those things that when you have it, you feel it. It's called equanimity. When you feel a balance where you're not allowing things to overwhelm you, where even if things are going crazy around you, there's a certain amount of centeredness that you have. I think when you're in a place where you're not guilting yourself, where you can accept situations and circumstances and people, I think that that's a telltale sign of your own relationship to yourself. If you are constantly worried about what other people are doing, if you're constantly worried about the political atmosphere, if you're constantly worried about whether we're going to have a recession or whether we're going to be inflation's going up. If you constantly worry about those things, that tells you you're not centered and you're outside of your good relationship with yourself. It doesn't mean that you're unaware of these things, because that's not the case. You should be aware of what's happening, but how you allow it to get into your airspace
Mhm.
is what, and whether your relationship with yourself is on an even keel. It doesn't mean that you don't get off sometimes, but if you can basically observe what's going around you and realize that I can change what I can, I have to accept or leave what I can't. Those are really your three choices. And Eckhart Tolle said this. I read this in his book Power of Now, some like a decade or so ago. But those three things, accept it, leave it, or change it. If you can't do one of those three things, then you're driving yourself crazy.
Accept it,
Accept
leave
it,
it,
leave it,
or
or
change it.
change it. It's very simple. The three things. I said it not in the order that he said it in, but I find that that's kind of, in terms of just me working on my own relationship with myself, as having to ask those questions. Okay, I'm upset about this thing. Can I change it? Oh, it's somebody else. I guess I can't. Can I leave it? Well, right now I need that job. Can I accept it? Well, I'm going to have to because this is the situation right now. But I am I am in the process of manifesting or creating that thing that I want.
Hmm.
And that helps in terms of just your own anxiety, whether you have it or not. If you find that you're lowering your sense of your anxiety, that you're lowering the amount of stress, it has to do with your relationship to self. Maybe there are things you can let go of. Because a lot of times we got too much stuff. We got too much stuff and we got too much stuff in our heads.
Yeah.
What can you let go of? What does not, what's no longer useful? What never was useful? And that's what happens when you begin to really look into your own relationship, your self relationship, is when you can answer those questions. What can I let go of? Okay, let's say I'm working a job that I hate. What can I find in this job to like? Are there things in this job that I can like? Well, it pays me, it supports me. Well, that's a big plus.
Hmm.
Maybe you hate everything else about your job, but if you can say, I like this money I'm getting, let that be the bigger picture for you in the sense of this is allowing you to do whatever it is that you want to do. Then you can kind of relax about all the other stuff because it's madness. If you're working with a crazy boss,
Hmm.
how can you best deal with this person to be less stressful for yourself? Again, this is what comes into looking at your own relationship with yourself, because then the onus is not on the other person. The responsibility is you on yourself, not the blame, not the fault, because that's a different thing. And that's guilt. When you go out and you blame yourself, it's like, okay, I'm responsible. You're responsible for how you react, how you respond, how you perceive. And if you can get yourself to a place of becoming more aware of how you're responding moment to moment, that's also part of working on your relationship with yourself.
It's you have the power over yourself. That circle influence, that what do you have the power over? You always have power over yourself, what you think, how you react.
Yeah.
You said something halfway through about airspace, and we have limited airspace, and how we're using up that time, that space. And I think a lot of us have gotten into these cycles of getting overly consumed by certain
Mhm.
things happening in the news,
Yes.
things, um, or we get overly consumed and just keep thinking about the negatives of the workday, for example,
Yes.
or a toxic work
Yeah.
environment, on top of the 8 to 10 hours that we spend at the toxic work environment. So we're giving that job 20 hours of our time per day.
Right.
And I thought it was very interesting to think about airspace. I always say that our time is super valuable. It's so
Yes.
valuable. And you and I were talking right before we started recording about prioritizing our time, because our time is
Mm-hmm.
valuable. We have to make the
Mm-hmm.
best decisions. It's like money. Am I going to spend $100 on food,
Right.
clothes, utilities? Same thing with our time. Where are we going to put our time? It's so much more valuable
Yes.
than the dollar bill. So I love that you spoke about that in airspace a little bit, and I just kept thinking about how am I using my airspace and my time.
Yeah. One thing that struck me very deeply, there's a writer named Terry McMillan, and Terry had written in the 90s, Waiting to Exhale. And Waiting to Exhale was like the Bible, it had become the Bible for women. And there was a film made with Whitney Houston and Angela Bassett, but it wasn't so much about the book and the phenomenon about the book and the movie that struck me more than what she said. When she was writing that book, she was working a job she hated. And because she had this vision of being a writer, you don't wait until the book sells to call yourself a writer. You write. And as you're writing, you are a writer. So she would get up, let's say I think her day started at 5. She'd get up at 4 and she'd write. And that's how that book got done. It got done in the early morning hours before she went to work to do something she hated doing. She spent time doing what she loved. And that stayed with me because I think that we can get into ruts where we just think this is all there is. This is it. I'm going to be stuck at this job until I retire. And the thing about it is, your life is how you see it. You're not stuck in a, uh, you know, into a cookie cutter. Like that saying, "You're born, you live, you die." That's such a pessimistic way to me of looking at life. I feel like, you know, it's like there's no reason to be joyful if that's your attitude. You born, you live, you die. It's like, oh man. But if you can look at where you are right now, and if it's not to your liking, what would be to your liking? And I deal with this in the book as well, is the visualization of what it is. If you listen to celebrities, famous people, some people, they made their millions by coming up with a good idea and right time. But a lot of these celebrities have been dreaming about these careers since they were children. So
Yeah.
this has been in the ether, in their airspace, for a long time. Put into your ether, into your airspace, the things that you wish to create, the things that you want to manifest. Because when you do that, you are laying the seeds, you are planting the seeds for them to grow.
Mm, I like that. You have to plant those seeds. You have to manifest what you want. And so you
Yeah.
have to figure out what you want.
You
And
have to figure out what you want. And a lot of people have no idea because they never even ask themselves that question. Because we tend to assume. A lot of our life is assumption. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to get out of college. I'm going to get a job. Um, meet my mate. I'm going to get married or not. I'm going to have babies. We assume these things. These are the things that we don't even question whether we even want them or not. We just assume that this is what our life is going to be. And you have more power than that, but you have to envision what it is that you want. And even if you don't know what it is, what's the essence of what you want? Do you want abundance? Do you want prosperity? Do you want joy? Do you want, if you think about the essences of what you want, life will bring that to you. But we tend to not even ask ourselves that. What kind of life do I want? What is it? The older I've gotten, the more I ask, what is the quality of life that I want? What is
mhm.
the quality of life?
That's a big question. I love that you framed it in terms of at least figure out what essence you're looking for. So it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be something so, so specific. Yeah. I
exactly.
want joy,
Yes.
relaxation, peace.
Yes.
What is it you're looking for? And then you can drill in and think about more of what do I really
Yes.
want?
And
But
do more of what it is that you want. If roller skating brings you joy, then do that. Skate after work. Because in the action of doing something that you enjoy, it brings more things to enjoy. Like energy is or frequency. So if you are vibrating at a certain frequency, if you're complaining all the time, if you're unhappy a lot, if you're depressed a lot, that's a frequency. It's a very low frequency. If you want the things that are much higher than that, you have to raise your vibe. You have to raise your vibration.
mm-hmm.
See, it don't work the other way. And a lot of us think I have to get it before I don't, they don't understand you have to be it. You have to be it. You have to be joy. You have to be love. You have to be abundance. Even if you feel broke, if you're broke and you have $0 in your bank account. Who is it? Jim Carrey. Jim, and I saw this interview that he gave many years ago. That man wrote himself a $20 million check when he
Oh,
was broke. He was a struggling comedian, and he had no money, and he wrote himself. I can't remember whether he wrote the check then or whether his career had started to take off. But he
okay.
wrote himself a check for $20 million, and he carried it in his wallet everywhere he went. He was the first person, I believe, to be paid $20 million for a movie. And I don't remember which movie. That's something that you can Google. But he got $20 million for that film. But he had to see it first. He had to see it in his mind. He had to envision having that kind of money.
You're giving me ideas and ideas because I think I jump into projects, but I don't pause before I do them and see it, and
You have
then
to
be
see
able
it.
to truly reap the benefits and create the pathway for success
Right,
with those
right,
projects.
right.
I also love that you talked about joy, and it's funny. So, I have a consulting firm. I have a wonderful team there. We do a lot of fun projects with higher ed institutions and small businesses and nonprofits. And one of our strategic goals for the year is to do more things that bring us joy.
Yes, it's so important. It makes your life
Yeah.
really sing.
And we wanted to pick the projects we're passionate about, do the work we're most joyful about, that brings us the most joy.
Yeah,
And so that was how we came up with that in October for 2024. Do more of
that
what.
is so cool. That is so, and I mean, that's what unites us. We all want to live joyful lives, but I think that a lot of us get the message that that's a pipe dream and it's unrealistic and all the other things that society tells us that's not true, but we believe because there's so much proof.
Mhm.
If you are miserable, you're going to meet nothing but miserable people.
Yeah, energy attracts
And
similar.
it similar energy attracts. Remember, I talked about the wavelength, the frequency, the level of that you're vibrating on. You're going to, and that's a good way. That's a great barometer to tell you where you are if you're not paying attention. Are you meeting a bunch of grumpy people? It doesn't mean that even if you're joyful, you don't meet them. But is this your life? Are you always running into people that are angry? Are you always running into people that are depressed and stressed um and you want to change that? Then you have to change you. You have to
Mhm.
change your perception. You have to change what you expect to receive. What you have to tell the universe what you want.
Mhm.
And it comes back to knowing what you want. And if you don't know what you want, that's okay. But ask yourself, what am I happy doing? What can I spend hours doing and not have any clue that the time is going by? And that's the seed of your answers. If you can say, I can paint all day and it could be daylight when I start and nighttime when I realize that I look at the clock, well, somewhere in there is your answer.
That's true. That is true. And there you go. That's what will bring you joy.
Absolutely.
Wow, we've covered so many different topics and we've gotten so many drops of advice. Remember, listeners, I said, listen, we're going to hear these little bits of advice, these gems of advice. Um, I know that you and I have gone through quite a bit over the years, and we've been a little bit on the creative side with our entrepreneurship and bringing the
Yeah.
things that bring us joy out and sharing with others in all those processes. What advice do you have for us? Additional advice. I'm trying to get those last few bits, those last few bits of advice, those last few gems out of you for us. Because this has been great life advice, and for me, but also for listeners, I'm being a little selfish. I'm taking notes. But we've talked about, for example, of getting or finding your unique voice through
Mm,
these processes. We've talked about living as multi-hyphenates or multi-passionate creatives, and making sure we do things that we simplify things, don't do so
Yes.
much or so much of things that we need. Let's talk a little bit about that because I think that there's so many great bits of advice that we've talked about because of the experiences and the lives we've lived. And maybe
Hmm.
share a few more with us that I'm sure will also be processed through guided meditation when we all buy your book.
That's right. That's right. Um, well, ask me that one more time.
Yeah, just bits of advice about anything you've learned through this journey,
Mm,
things that
mm.
we can keep, that we can take away from this interview, along with all the other gems you've shared with us.
Be kinder to yourself.
Ooh, that's a good
Be kinder to yourself because we're kind to everybody. Well, some of us are not, but you think about being kind to other people, but you don't turn it on yourself. You don't shine that consideration on yourself. And I think that because there's a misconception of self care being selfish.
one.
And I'll give you a quote from the book. Selfishness creates imbalances. Self care creates balance. People think if I take care of myself, I'm being selfish. No, if you take care of yourself, you have, again, that what I said earlier, if you don't give to the well, being you have nothing to give.
Mhm.
And what you end up being able to give because you've nourished yourself is that much greater than if you didn't.
Another gem, folks, another gem. And I think a lot of us, especially more women, I think than men,
Mhm.
are we're just not kind to ourselves.
No, we're so critical. I'm fat. I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. And it just goes on, and we're not even aware that we're doing it, that we are constantly uh throwing up a litany of insults. We like insult ourselves a lot. And you wouldn't take that from somebody else. You wouldn't take that. But we do it to ourselves and we're not even aware of it.
Mm,
It's just a habit. It's just a constant. And some of it can be, traced back to childhood. You might have had a very critical parent, like I did, where nothing you did was good enough. You did was good enough. It's always criticism. Even if it was great, oh, it could have been better. And so we'll take that voice and that becomes one of our characters in our heads,
mhm.
that play that goes on in your head.
All these negative voices that we have to then learn how to mute and mute
Yes.
so you could
And
be
know that it's all lies. It's all lies. None of it is true.
yeah. Another gem, you see? Oh, no, this has been a wonderful conversation. Circling back to the book, we started with, getting to know each other again for our listeners
Yeah,
and jumping right into your newest project. And we talked about all these things that are there for us to work on ourselves.
absolutely.
And then it circles back to the book. Tell us two or three reasons we should look at your book because I think that's going to give us those takeaways from your book. What are two or three reasons why we should engage in self-guided meditation with a tool like your book?
Mm. If you want to sleep better, if you want to feel better, and you want more peace, that's three things. That's why you should get my book because I talk about all three, how to create those things for yourself, regardless of what's happening in your life.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. And I wanted to bring it back to the book because I wanted all of us to understand that the work we're talking about, and I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but the work we're talking about is internal. And that's
Yes,
where the power of meditation comes in. And
absolutely.
here's an easy, accessible way to be able to access tools for meditation. And that's why I
Yes,
wanted to circle back to show how all of this, including all those gems of advice, come all together into this neat little present for us.
yes. I mean, the book helps you figure out what it is you want, what you're about, and gives you an inkling on how to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, it's not so much like looking at these guides where they tell you the best practices on Instagram, how to get followers on Instagram, the best practices to use on YouTube. It's not like that. It is a more soothing, calming way of having more joy and peace in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want that. That's something we strive for, but we may not have a direction on it. And this book, the self-help book, helps guide you to that.
Thank you for sharing that, for helping me bring it full circle so that we can see how it wraps up all nicely together. For our listeners, there are so many wonderful resources available, and those are in the description of the episode, including Jackie's website, access to the book, and she has other resources, the blog. And you might not know this from this interview, but she's also an artist.
Yes.
That multi-passionate creative side of her has many sides. So you'll see resources or links, I should say, to the website where you can learn more about that. But definitely that's all in the description for you, just an easy one-stop shop for you to learn more and to get the help you need for guided meditation, self-guided meditation, and to start focusing on yourself. And I love how you say self-care is not selfish. It's
Right.
actually the opposite. If you're taking care of yourself, then you can take care of others, is also how I
Yes.
see it, and take care of the things around you. So I hope you all, just like I did, learned a lot of wonderful lessons from the conversation today, because it was really, really enlightening. It was like a little free therapy session after my cortado, which is a nice espresso and a little bit of milk. But it was wonderful. And Jackie, thank you so much for joining us for coffee and an interview. It's always great having you on the show. And
Thank
every
you.
time we work together, we just learn new things from you. And I appreciate you sharing those gems with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, to listening to the episode. Check out the description for this episode, and we'll see you at the next episode.